Right. Good morning, everybody. This is Brian Caprice, and I'm going to be hosting our Monday morning market breakdown. Starting a little bit early today, and I want to make sure we can get through things. It is a slow day for news, and we'll cover that in 1 second. But before we get started, let me give you a little bit of background about who I am, and give you some risk disclaimers before we get started. Each week, our attendance keeps growing, and this is something we want to keep doing. The reason we have these early in the morning is because if there's Monday morning news, today's not that case, but again, we want to stay consistent. Again, we want to build a routine, and that's typically how traders get ahead is they create a routine, they follow it, and we go from there. So just so you guys know where I'm coming from, I'm an instructor over at Major League Trading, and I'm also the co-founder of Major League Forex. And I've been trading for a while, really since the tech bubble. I had what my dad would say is perfect timing. I wanted to learn to get into the markets just as it was crashing, but it was a good experience. I got to learn a lot. At that time when I was just entering the markets, didn't have a lot of capital, you know, didn't have a lot to lose at that point, but really wanted to get in and really always had kind of a passion for the markets. I've traded various asset classes over that time. Started with stocks and traditional option strategies, found currencies, done a bunch of different things. So seen ups and downs, multiple crashes. Created a couple courses, a 30-minute trader as well as the 5-minute binary courses, and those were created for people with full-time jobs. Um, this is a picture of the family. I have twin boys that are 8. I have a newborn that's I guess she's not newborn, she's 10 months old now. Very, very busy life. So for me, I'm one of those people that doesn't like to be I don't want to sit in front of a computer, for 10 hours a day trading. So I created programs that help people be at the computer less and use technology the way that it was designed to be used. I have worked for the advisor group of one of the big 3 banks. I spent some time there, but I realized very fast that most of the people in the world that are asking you for your money don't know anything about what to actually do with it. That was a very big shock to me. So I didn't stay long in that area. I guess the biggest problem was I knew how to trade the market, and I couldn't put my clients' money into bad things, and that's not what the advisory world is really about. Um, Spent some time traveling. Don't do that now. Basically, I'm a stay-at-home dad now. I trade, I teach, I take care of Jen, the little one, and I coach actually on 3 different lacrosse teams for my son. So if my voice goes in and out, I promise I'm not young. My voice is not changing. It's just doing a lot of coaching. I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with 8-year-old kids, but when you're telling them, yelling across the field, sometimes you got to yell multiple times, and the voice is going. It's not as good as it used to be. So normally I don't sound this, kind of harsh, hoarse. Um, but with that being said, let me jump into the risk disclaimers and we'll get into today's session. Um, Trading on Nadex involves financial risk and may not be appropriate for all investors. The information presented here is for information and educational purposes only and should be not considered an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any financial instrument on Nadex or elsewhere. Now, any trading decision that you make is solely your responsibility, and past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Now, Nadex contracts are based on underlying assets, including Forex, which we're going to talk about today, stock index futures, commodity futures, and economic events. Now, most importantly, trading can be volatile and investors risk losing their investment on any given transaction. However, the design of Nadex contracts ensures investors cannot lose more than the cost to enter the transaction. Nadex is subject to U.S. regulatory oversight by the CFTC. Now, for me, one of the biggest reasons why I ended up jumping over into Nadex as well and adding that to kind of my suite of assets that I trade is because of this last statement, this last box. Understand that if you are a futures trader and you put on a stop loss, that does not guarantee it's going to take you out of the markets. Okay. Now, if you get into a Nadex position, whatever it costs you to get into that position, that's the most you can lose. It doesn't matter if it jumps. And having that kind of absolute risk in there, that's huge if you're a trader. If you need to understand that, it's very, very big. It's one of the things that drew me towards traditional options, buying options, right? But understand there are other assets, stocks, Forex, futures, they also can be risky. You can actually lose more that's in your account and get margin calls. Doesn't happen in Nadex, so it's one of the reasons why I love Nadex so much and I'm so passionate about it. Okay, so let's jump into what the news we have for this week is. Now, I can't believe it's already, it's already the 8th. We're 3 months in. It's flying. This week, these are the top 3 that I always do. This week, we're a little bit shy for news. It's not a very big news trading week, so you're going to see less things. Now, the biggest kind of news time period this week for trading is going to be April 10th, Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. We have US CPI and we have a European press conference. Now, anything, you guys, if you've been watching the markets, you know that the markets have really been dominated by Brexit the last basically month and a half. Okay. So anything that comes out of the UK or anything in the European Union is definitely something you need to watch out for. Now the markets are somewhat kind of, for lack of a better word, exhausted at this point. We had so much movement back and forth that traders, I think, are, for lack of a better word, they kind of have a hangover at this point, right? So it's kind of good that this is a slower week to recharge, the big bank money, right? But anytime the ECB talks, it can kind of foreshadow about where the euro is going to go. And again, the euro is a very commanding currency. Um, you know, they make any comments about how Brexit's going to occur or what the effects of Brexit are going to be. Definitely could be a big mover. And then again, coupled with CPI, Wednesday at 8:30 is going to be a big time. Thursday at 8:30 we have PPI. Again, anything that mentions inflation or consumer price indexes or anything like that typically will be a big mover because it starts getting into the consumer. And whenever you bring the consumer in, that goes back to kind of Main Street. Lastly, again, if you are awake or you're a West Coaster or overseas, 4:30 a.m. Great Britain pound, the GDP month over month. Again, those are good ones to look at. They can be big movers for individual currencies. It is, after the European Open, so there will not be U.S. traders at that point. Definitely an early morning release. If you're up, good move, good mover. With that being said, let me jump down and let me bring a news set across so you can actually look at the grander scheme of news. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with DailyFX. Go over to DailyFX, dailyfx.com. Go over to charts and calendars. Go to economic calendars and go over here. Make sure that you set the time correctly for where you live. I am in the New York time zone. Filters, change this around. I get rid of Mexican peso. I leave China up there. Get rid of low. And here we can go. You can see. I also use the weekly view, so I can just scroll down on the page. Now you can see Monday's pretty, not a whole lot here. A little bit of medium news for housing starts and building permits, although these are not really huge movers. Factory orders and durable goods, sometimes they can move. They are around the 10 a.m. period today, which again, 10 or 10:30 are the two notorious times for reversals during the day. So that could potentially, depending on what the open looks like, if these two numbers change it, that could be the catalyst we need for a reversal in the day. Tomorrow, same thing. Really nothing that's considered high profile. And if you look, there's really nothing for U.S. It's all kind of, foreign. And again, the Swiss, a little bit. Unemployment rate, again, if you're a Swiss trader, you may want to trade those. But for the most part, Tuesday's a pretty flat day. Wednesday, we get into what we talked about before, that, kind of 8:30-ish, 7:45-ish, and again, the press conference is based off the central, decisions here, and you'll see down in this area where it kind of all the hot spots are. All right. There is FOMC notes, although FOMC, the last couple times it's been somewhat of a bust. It's kind of feast or famine with FOMC notes. At this point, I don't think there's anything that they're going to add that we don't already know. They've already talked about how we're really not going to do any rate changes for the rest of the year. I don't think they're really going to start going into next year yet. They're going to see how a lot of this kind of, factors out. So I don't expect it to be a big FOMC this week. If you are, again, with Nadex, you can trade crude oil. So that's at 10:30 in the morning, and that's not bad for a trade. As long as we have a miss, and again, based off the numbers, this could be a nice little miss this week. Going into Thursday, same thing. We got initial jobless claims and continuing claims. Those are marked medium, and we may get a little bit of a spike off of that, but because it's so early in the morning, I don't think it's going to do too much to the overall market for the day. And then going into Friday, the other thing we have is University of Michigan sentiment. These aren't bad, but you can see the numbers don't change too often. Again, it's supposed to be slightly down from where we were before, but this one doesn't have too big of a miss. Typically, this is factored in, so I don't rank it as one of the top three, but it is potentially something again that could be 10 a.m. It could be at those reversal times. All right. So with that said, let's jump into some of the charts and see what we have. Let me get rid of those. This was from my other class. All right. So what I typically do is I will run through different Nadex pairs. And what we're looking to do is see if we can find any, nice levels or potential things that we're looking for the week. Starting off with the first one. So Aussie yen has really been stuck within kind of this top and bottom kind of buy and sell areas. We've marked this off. This is back from December, and we've had some great bounces off of there. We just recently bounced off of it last week. Now, where we are right now is we're doing a bit of a retrace back down again. We are still at the top of kind of what this range would be on the daily. One caveat to this top section is if we do start to bounce back up again, I don't know how much longer this area is going to be able to hold. If you're a price action trader, you'll know that, kind of buying and selling areas, they're not good forever. Okay, now this one has been hit 1, 2, 3, really kind of 4 and 5 times. We are getting to the point where if it starts to push into this zone, we're most likely looking for a break. So we're starting to get exhausted on the top side. Bottom side has been holding. It's about the same though. It's about 3 or 4. So although we are kind of in this daily channel, things are starting to kind of bounce back and forth. You guys can see where we are right now. We've had a little bit of a retrace. Price popped down, right? Nice little kind of run back down to kind of a level we had talked about last week. Where we are in this one now, I'll delete this so you guys can see it a little bit better. You can see the way that the market moves, we have impulse, correction, and we'll kind of see where we are right now. It's running into, at least on the 15-minute, you guys will see this kind of level of basing right here. That's more or less what it ran into, okay? Here, I'll make this a little easier for you guys to see. You guys see this level of basing right here? Okay, so that's what price is running into, and it went down. So we'll see as U.S. traders come online where we're going to start pushing this one. Right now, let's see. Now, this is one that I will look for on weekly positions on it. Right now, we're having conflicting signals. We have an uptrend setup. Again, problem with an uptrend setup is we're running into an area of sellers, but then on the lower time frame, we have a downtrend setup. Okay, right? Because impulse correction. Problem is it doesn't have a whole lot of room to run to the downside. So for me, I'm probably going to walk away from this one. If I had to give you a sentiment, I would say based off my technicals, I am probably a little bit more bearish centric at this point on this one, although nothing screams to me that we should go short, particularly because we only have right now about 30 pips to the downside before we run into this area. Again, this is where there was a gap, price came down and then exploded off of this area here. And if we're going to front run that position, we only really have about 25 pips to the downside. So, for me, I would rate this maybe a C. I'd probably look to see what other pairs are better out there. Okay. So let's jump into the next one. We'll go over to Aussie dollar. Okay. Aussie dollar has a somewhat similar picture, although we've been really kind of just stuck in this consolidation period, right? Lower time frame on the 4-hour, you can see it's up, down, and again, we're doing very, very similar picture. If you extend this line across, extend this one off the bottom, same type of channel. We're right smack in the middle of the channel right now. So again, for me, it's a no trade right in the middle. And you can see on the daily, it's really gotten flatlined. This pair only has a 52 pip ATR, meaning on average, it only moves about 52 pips. So for me, this one really needs to come up and figure out where it's going to start trending. I'm waiting for some type of big breakout on this one. And again, this is very, very flat, very, very small. And again, if we were on the top side or the low side, it may be a little bit different picture. But again, we're smack in the middle of two zones. And, we only have, you have 30 on each direction, okay, before we need to worry about it. So kind of a small trade, nothing great here. And again, Monday morning, not necessarily surprised about that. Let's go to Euro Pound. So Euro Pound, there will probably be some movement this week. There's a press conference. There's some pound news. Nothing Brexit quality. Here is kind of the two zones, this yellow one and the red one for what we talked about for Brexit. I can bring that back. That was something else. I'll just take that off. Again, we've been running back and forth on this channel. We're starting to approach the top side, and you can see over here as well, we are approaching the top side as well. You know what? Let me bring this back up to a 60, make it a little easier. There we go. All right. Bring that down. That actually bounced off of there. I'll take it off. So again, we are approaching the top side. So for me, kind of a similar position. Again, we're at the top end of this one. Not a lot of news this week for the pound. For the euro, we saw a little bit, but again, excuse me. Hopefully, I got the mute button on that one. Sorry about that, guys. So again, similar to what we saw in the last two pairs, definitely a little bit more, bearish centric on this one. We are on the top or kind of upper end where the sell area is. Now, I'm very, very cautious of this sell area. If price approaches this 86.62 area, I'm going to be watching it. Okay, I'm not ready to just take a blind short in this position, and here's the reason why. Okay, here was the basing zone that we used for Brexit. Price went sideways, hit it, went all the way down to buyer. It came all the way back up, but, and this is a big but, you guys see this green candle right here? This green candle went all the way to the upper side of this zone, okay? Now, when you're looking for areas of basing, you can use them as selling and buying areas. When price goes all the way through, it basically wipes the area out. So for me, I'm looking at this 86, basically 57 area as a telltale sign of, is it going to hold, or is this finally the breakout that I'm looking for? Okay. Because again, zones can only be bounced off of so long. Their orders get eaten up, and eventually there's no orders left. You can see on the 4-hour, the last spike was a very, very small one. So for me, what I'm doing is I'm looking at that. Again, up here we talked about 86.50. That 86.50 area is up in here. Okay, I'm looking for somewhat of a small bounce, but if we can break through the top of this zone, I'm looking for price to come back, retest this 87.30, and then I'm looking for it to go up to basically 88. Okay, so I'm looking. That's where my breakout trade is to the top side. If it does turn around, one thing that I will do is I will look for reversal patterns in my lower time frames. If we do bounce off of this, say 87.15, again, just slightly higher from where we are, it's about here. It's kind of the upper side. I'm looking for a reversal pattern, and then I would definitely be looking to take this short. This zone right here, guys, this red one, is slightly higher than this zone, okay? It's actually based off of this little kind of drop sideways and drop right here. All right, so this is a trade setup I'm looking for later in the week. I want to see what it does once we get some US traders in here, see if we can go higher. We were starting to push down, and we bounced off this level of basing. I want to see if we can grab some orders here and start to head back down. But, one thing I'm worried about is we have a base here, we have a base here, we have a base here. Okay, so a couple of things we got to kick through before we can take this to the downside. But that's a trade I'm looking for later in the week. Next pair would be Euro Yen. There's the load. All right, so Euro Yen bounced off of our lower base here. Okay, you guys again excuse all the boxes here. Again, you can see that on the 4-hour. This was a zone that we had drawn that again used to be a selling area. It sold here, then it based, it went up, and then it went higher again, and it is now based off of it again and bounced. So we actually have 3 bounces, and again flat line on the daily. So what I'm looking forward to do right now is it's had a couple chances to push higher, right? There was no real selling pressure here whatsoever until we got up into this kind of 125, really 126 area, right? We'll call it that to make it easy. We had this area drawn, and again, price went up, boom, up a little bit higher, boom. If we have a failure to go higher in this candle and we start to push down, I'm definitely looking for bearish positions, okay? We can head back into kind of this 124-ish area. We can head back down into this gap. You guys will see the gap right here into this 124.39. But what I need to do is I need to see a failure to go higher. And again, this could be the impulse, this could be the correction, and then we could have a drive higher. We do have a sideways with an upward bias and sideways with an upward bias, and then uptrend setup on our 3 time frames. So everything is saying technically that it wants to go higher. But again, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what it wants, what the indicators are showing us it's going to do. It matters what it does. So again, we're watching our smaller time frames on this one. 60 or even the 30-minute may even be a better one to watch for this one. And you can see a little bit more here, right? Basing, we had a spike up into this basing level. All right. But again, this could be the pullback it needs to grab more orders to push higher, okay? Like I said, we had one level here. We went a little bit higher, came back down again. If we push through, this may be the catalyst we need to go back up. So as of Monday morning, nothing great here. I mean, again, I'm on a +3. I've broken 3 levels to the top side. So still watching and holding. Downside, I am watching this 125.07 to really 125.95-ish area to start looking to take shorts to the downside if we can break this level of support. All right, let's go over and jump into euro dollar. So euro dollar, we're basically been holding on the daily. Again, we spiked up and down. I drew some things last week for non-farm, and we really had no reaction from it. Non-farm can be a huge mover, and non-farm can be a non-mover. And this week it was obviously a non-mover. You can see it just basically flatlined. Very, very shy, right? On a 30-minute, if I stretch the candles out, yeah, you can say, oh my God, it moved huge. But unfortunately, it didn't really move huge. It's kind of more in there. We're kind of stuck within what, about a 30 pip range. Okay, its ATR now is down to 54, and this one used to be much higher than that. We've started to pull off some, get rid of some of these larger candles in here. So 54 as an ATR is really kind of showing you what, this one used to be in the 80, 90 range. Dropping to 54 has really shown you kind of what, how focused we've been on certain trades. And you can see, there are some days where we have very large movement and some days where it's just not moving, right? I'm waiting for it to establish a new trend. We are definitely towards the bottom side, this buying area that we had marked off on the 4-hour. But again, level of basing, and we're stuck, right? When I say level of basing, I'm basically talking about really kind of this area right here, right? Here, up, down, boom, 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 boom. See the difference? So it needs to break out and start forming. For me, triggers for me are going to be, again, this bottom side, the 112 area. Again, 112, there's a lot of psychological kind of pressure that steps in at that 112, 111 area. Selling, I'm definitely looking for this 113, 13 at the top as an area. You can see price came down, came up and turned, and then immediately dropped, okay? So again, marking that off, marking the bottom side, waiting for those, waiting for some type of breakout. Once the U.S. traders get involved in a couple hours, we will see some movement in this one as the dollar comes online again, okay? In the short term, it does look like it wants to go higher. We have an anchor break on two different areas. Bit of selling on this measure move to the downside. So still waiting for some true kind of intention of where it wants to go. You can see on the lot right now. Let's see. Let's drop into pound yen. So pound yen, again, here was the Brexit top and bottoms that we had marked off, and you can see it bounced, came up, went down, came over, bounced again, went back up, and now we're kind of in the middle. Again, between these two zones, you guys can see right here at 145.75, we are, again, smack in the middle, and on the lower time frame, you can see we had an area that really we were looking more for. This was a target, not necessarily a trigger. The reason why it was not really necessarily a trigger was because, again, it was in the middle of the move. But again, if we were shorting from this level here, this gray area, price came down and tagged it and then went sideways. So the fact that the pound's been open, again, we've had nothing but really sideways, even on the 30-minute, you guys can see it just flatlined. Again, it looks like the pound right now, the pound central markets are still, again, in that hangover mode that I've talked about. There's a lot that went into this back and forth, right? I mean, this was a pretty big swing top to bottom. It was about 300 pip kind of swing both directions. I think at this point they're a little bit exhausted. They're just trying to figure out what's going on. Again, we really have no true plans about this one. What I would do though is I would look for a break of this 144 or 145 area. I think if we can go through this zone where this last turn was, with some nice momentum, I think we could definitely. I think we take this back in, back a little bit lower. Ultimately, I think we can get back down to the 142 range if we can break this kind of buying area, this 144.25 to 143.65 area. But right now, like I said, it's pretty flat. When you guys see this over, multiple hours, even with the pound open, no reason to force a trade if you don't need to. Okay. Let's look at pound dollar. Probably going to be a similar picture. Yeah, pound dollar is right in the middle of the range. You guys can see I do have a downtrend set up, meaning that it's looking to go to the downside on the daily. But again, top selling, bottom buying, we're smack in the middle. Okay. 4 hour on the lower kind of basing area. Again, we took another bounce off this bottom section, did not go higher. And you can see here, it looks like we're starting to build some momentum to the downside. So there may actually be an opportunity in this one to take this short if we are able to break through this 130 to 129.60 area. A little bit of a larger area, but what I would do is I would check it on the lower time frame and look for some type of trade back down to the 128.50 area. There was a bit of a gap. This was a gap off news and spiked up. So there's probably a little bit of sellers here, but you're talking about 60 pips to the downside or potentially 185 back down to the daily support area. So again, as far as the trade setup goes right now, you'd have to flip your 3 time frames on this one. That would be more of a day trade, and I try to focus on more swing trades for these Monday morning sessions. I'd be looking for a break of this area, but right now it looks like on the lower time frames we're building a little bit of momentum to the downside. And again, we do have a downtrend set up. So yeah, so I again, be cautious at the 130 area. Again, it's a psychological number, big round hole number, so be cautious with that one. Let's go down to dollar CAD. All right, so dollar CAD's ATR is 70. So dollar CAD did base off this little kind of descending wick area. Did not have the news move that we expected on Friday. So Friday, this was the kind of expected range of non-farm if we had, a big miss, which it wasn't really anything that we could move. And it was a little bit of a mixed number with the CAD number. And you guys can see on the lower time frame, you guys see the spike in here, spike all the way down to here, spike all the way up to here. This was kind of the indecision. Oh God, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be good, and then really just did nothing. And just kind of it started where it really started, or finished where it started. So not a whole lot here. We've kind of gone back down to where this kind of basic level was. Definitely more bearish, right? We have sideways downtrend here, sideways down confirmed because again we have a red, green, red formation, and downtrend setup because we have a little bit of a green. So I wouldn't necessarily be too worried until we get back down into the it's only 18 pips away, but this 133.50 area, this is going to be a psychological level. Price spent a lot of time here, and again these would all be dollar weakness moves. Dollar CAD has been one that, again, if you guys are, if you're trading, now here's the thing. A lot of people go to Nadex and they trade just binary options. Understand there's other things that you can trade over there as well. There are spreads as well as there are touch brackets now, okay? This is not a touch bracket pair, but you can definitely trade spreads over here. So dollar CAD is one of those ones that I do actually enjoy trading spreads on, just for the fact that you are able to get at certain times of day some pretty nice movement out of there. There are 2-hour spreads and there are daily spreads on this one. Right now, the indicative of this one is 133.71, which just happens to be very, very close to a ceiling in one of the daily brackets. And there's about 7 hours left. So if you guys haven't, I'm not going to give that one away to you guys, but go over there and check that one out. We're not real far from, again, a floor of one and a ceiling of another one. And a lot of times when those are pretty close, those can be some nice trades in there. So again, do yourself a favor. If you're only trading binaries, go check some of the spreads out. They trade just like the underlying asset, but with the same kind of benefits that Nadex offers in general. Okay. There is, the expiration is a little bit different. It's not based off of you being above or below a specific strike price. As I said, it trades like the underlying. Once you've covered the initial, buy-in risk, if it closes, you can make 1, 2, 3, 4, 100. It depends on, how much it's moved in your direction. So dollar CAD is one I do actually like to trade these on, and I do like them on the 2 hours. And the way that it's looking right now, it looks like we're, the dollar is starting to get a bit weaker here. So this could be the potential, if you're looking at it, look for 2-hour binaries on this one today, as well as really any day that you can. But I kind of like the way that this is something that I will be looking at, particularly because the 30-minute is showing that we could have potential to the downside. Okay. All right, let's jump down to dollar Swiss. I don't trade as often. This is one of those ones. I mean, the daily ATR on this one is down to 44 right now. 44 is not very large, right? And even you can see, when we did have a little bit of a spike, it immediately retraced back up to where it was. It was a very fast hiccup up and down. And again, things tend to be fast in this one. Where we are right now, again, we had this gap from last week, or actually from, I guess, March 19th. I say last week, but it's been a while. It finally came up, retested it, and dropped away and pulled back up. So we're still kind of in that same area. The reason I don't trade this one is because, to trade, we typically need movement, and this one just doesn't have a ton of movement. Even something like this that looks like it's a big mover, you're talking about 15 pips. So, yeah, I'm just going to skip this one. There's not really anything that I'm excited for the week on this one. Let's go to dollar yen. Okay. Dollar yen is another one that I will typically use. Now, dollar yen is a touch bracket pair. I don't actually trade a lot of touch brackets on this one, but it doesn't mean other people aren't having success with them. For me, I do like the spreads on this one, but I also will trade binaries. This one's ATR is dropping as well. It's down to 52. Again, for me, we are definitely at the top side. You guys can see this blue area. It was a little bit of an area that formed below the daily selling zone, right? When we're doing our analysis. And again, this middle area is not a buy or sell, it's a target. And you can see we've really kind of pushed away from it when it bounced off of this 111.72. We're down about 40 pips from that area. And you can see kind of here where we went up, we grabbed the upper area, got the confirmation in, and now came back. And again, it's very, very common. It's Monday morning. The U.S. markets are not open. We are stuck in this kind of sideways basing area, right? It kind of pulled back. And this is what you see a lot of times in currency. When you see things really push away fast, they will retrace. And again, we'll call them, over at Major League Forex, we'll call them racetracks. So we're looking for a couple of these racetracks when we break. I think about 36. So this one is not huge. You guys can see too, this is why it's important to mark these things off in your charts. This went down, it based, it went lower, right? Came back up and grabbed more orders at this area of basing, and then kind of pushed back down. And again, Friday happened. We ran out of steam, right? Let me see what the touch brackets are on this one real fast. How do I set up my screen? And again, same thing. If you guys are not looking at touch brackets, make sure you look at touch brackets as well. This is one of the pairs. If you guys are unfamiliar with what touch brackets are, Nadex has some great training videos up there for you. Let's see. The indicative of this is 111.45 right now. Actually, there's a 111.19 touch bracket kind of stop out point, which actually isn't bad. So that could be something you guys want to look at. And again, if you have not traded them, go over and trade them in demo mode. And again, understand Nadex has 3 products: binaries, spreads, and touch brackets. Make sure you know what the best way to trade all 3 of them is. And if you're not familiar with them, switch over to demo mode. Again, everybody has a demo account that comes with their accounts. Go try it, put them on in demo and learn the inner workings of them. So yeah, there's actually one that's not too far away if we can actually get some, confirmation that we're in a buying area. Got to go a little bit for me, unfortunately. The 119 is going to be here. See what it does. If we can actually get a break above this area, this may not be a bad trade to take. It may come a little bit lower. So that's that. If you're new, switch over to demo, and if you can find an entry to go long on this one, we're not quite there yet. But if we can get a little bit closer, you can try that 111.19 touch bracket to learn the working mechanics of it. Again, if you haven't traded them, do not take it in live. Only go trade it in demo mode. And once you're comfortable trading them, then you can switch over and trade them live. But for me right now, again, if I had to give my overall sentiment, we are in an uptrend setup, meaning we are in a confirmed uptrend, and we are in a red candle. It's pulling back. Again, looking for buyers so we can go long. But for me, it's a no-no because I will not buy into an area of sellers. And we have to confirm both a minor selling area as well as a major. So for me, I'm definitely a little bit more bearish on this one on a daily or swing trade basis. There are weekly positions in this one. Unfortunately, no weekly spreads, but you could trade a weekly binary on this one, and there's some attractive options out there. And again, understand, if you're going to do a weekly option, most likely it's going to be, there's 2 ways. You can take it at the money or a little bit farther, out of the money. The out of the money ones, understand that, there's a lower percentage that one is going to be correct in any position. But there's actually one. Yeah, there's actually one that's pretty attractive right now. If you guys switch over to those, you can see there's a nice kind of weekly binary that is basically 1 ATR below where we are. Again, not a bad position. There's also one on the top side. If we do push up higher, again, and we start to get a break to the top side, there is actually a nice one on the top side as well. So again, use your analysis. For me in the near term, until I see the confirmation higher, I'm not looking to go long. If I had to pick something right now, I'm more apt to go short, although it's not quite perfect. But again, make sure you have, you trade based off of what your trading style is. This is just the way that I'm looking at it right now. And the fact that it's a low week on news, I expect there to be kind of not huge volatility burst this week. Wednesday looks like it's going to be the big day for me to get some, determination. So best advice I can give you on this one, guys, is wait till the U.S. market opens, see where the early trends are establishing themselves, and then, again, jump into those 2-hour binaries. Like I said before, for me, I like the 2 hours the best when the markets are moving slow. The risk tends to be a little bit smaller. The strike prices are obviously smaller. And again, remember, whatever it costs you to get into the contract is what your maximum risk is in that position. And again, that's a big sweep for Nadex. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to jump out of here today to let you guys get on your trading path. Again, low week on news, and I'm more based off of news trading. So I don't have as much. A lot of things going sideways, a lot of things stuck in the middle of a channel. With a low week, let's make sure that, again, you guys, trade safe. Again, only trade what you see. Don't feel forced. One of the things that a lot of the traders that I work with, we help them with is, just because you're sitting down at the desk to trade, it doesn't mean you have to find a trade. If you don't find anything that's worthwhile taking, don't take it. Your number one priority should be not making money. It should be protecting the capital that you have in your account. And if you don't see a trade setup that meets your requirements, don't trade. Don't feel forced to trade. Okay. Feel too many people go out there and like, I'm sitting down, I have to at least take one trade today. And that's basically just you giving away your money. So make sure you have confidence in what you're trading. I had one question come in from Mike, how to set up my screen. Mike, typically, that depends on the actual trader. For me, I like to have a larger time frame to kind of see what the overall trend is. kind of a minor, like an intermediate time frame, and for there I'm looking for zones of entry. And then for me, my lowest time frame is where I'm looking to actually enter and manage my trades once they're on. So most times my stop losses and profit targets will be, formed out of that lowest time frame. And depending on the style of trader you are, if it's a swing trade, this is more set up for holding a position for a couple days with a daily 4-hour and 30-minute. If I'm day trading, I'm typically looking at a 4-hour, a 30-minute, and a 5-minute, or a 4-hour, 60-minute, and a 10-minute, depending on what time of day it is and what pair I'm looking at. All right. So hopefully that helps, guys. I will see you guys next week to jump back on again at same time, same place. And I think next week's actually a bigger week, so hopefully we can get a couple more, solid levels and solid news releases to talk about. All right. Thank you guys so much, and take care. Have a good day.